I got my green smoothie in hand, record has been pressed, and I am ready to kick it off. Breakfast smoothie for champions. Hey guys, Sarah Noked here, and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be diving into one of my most favorite topics, the sales conversation. Now, it wasn't always the case. When I first started off as an online business manager, sales conversations were the thing that I absolutely despised. They freaked me out, they made me nervous. I never felt like I carried myself well in the sales conversation, but over the years, I have learned to perfect the sales conversation. I have learned to identify cues and to really be able to wrap it up in a way which confidently presents the services that I have to offer. And in today's video, I want to share some tips and tricks with you so that you too can master the sales conversation. When I first started off as an online business manager, I used to run my sales conversations without any kind of strategy in mind. I would get on a call with a client. We'd talk for an hour. The conversation would go on for way too long. And before I knew it, we were like into strategy, talking about intimate details about the client's business. And I didn't even sign this client on a retainer yet. So I really want to be sharing some tips with you guys today that are gonna help you to sort of avoid the pitfalls of, having a call that goes on for too long, or not being prepared enough, or not really knowing what to tell them at the end of the conversation, right? So we are gonna cover that today. But before we get into that, I wanted to let you know about a very special event we have happening live in our community. It starts August 23rd. I'm gonna leave the details below this video in the description so that you can sign up for OBM Week. OBM Week is a live event that runs from Monday to Thursday, where I go live every day in our Confident OBM community, and we chat all things online business management. If you are just getting started, if you are scaling, if you are transitioning from VA to OBM, this is definitely the right event for you. Whether you are just getting started or you are rocket and rolling as an online business manager, you are going to really enjoy being part of our OBM Week, and it's free, and the details are below this video. Now, when it comes to sales conversations, there is so much emphasis that I want to place on what happens before you have the sales conversation with the client. This is like a two-pronged approach of my first tip, and that is the information piece. So the two-pronged approach is, first off, I want you to make sure that you have a client intake questionnaire in place. And the second piece is your due diligence. You want to make sure that you are doing the right due diligence to have the sales conversation effectively with the client. Why client intake questionnaire? So this is something that I see online business managers, especially, even those who are quite into the business already, who already have clients, they've managed to score these clients without really having a buttoned up client intake system. And there's one thing that I know for sure, especially as online business managers, it's really all about putting that right first foot forward with your client, giving the impression that you have your systems buttoned up, because you do. And that starts with your client intake system. So having a discovery call intake questionnaire, it can be 5 or 6 questions that are going to, get the client to fill those out. It can be your name, website, who's on your team, what are your top 3 goals for the next 90 days, and what's your monthly average revenue. That's gonna give you a lot of information about the client. You're gonna then be able to go and effectively do your due diligence. So due diligence is just where you spend 10, 15 minutes opting into that client's list, researching the client's business, really kind of evaluating, does this client feel like a really good fit for my business? Or if you have a team, does this client feel like a good fit for my team? You want to make sure from the onset that you are getting on a conversation with a client prepared and knowing potentially what kinds of services that you're gonna wanna sell the client. Because as you do your due diligence, as you look at your client intake questionnaire, you're going to be able to paint a very clear picture, more or less, of the client's business, so that when you do get on the sales conversation, you're getting on that sales conversation with the right kind of ammunition. Having done your due diligence, not only is it very impressive for the client, but it's also important for you to get on that call feeling confident. And when you are prepared, when you've taken the time to poke around and kind of like start to get into the client's world, what do they look like on social media? Are they consistent? Can I see who else is on their team? Does it look like they're running ads? Can I see parts of their funnel and what kinds of products they're selling? Or if they're offline, what kinds of presence they have in the online space? Because there's a lot of offline clients that want to move their businesses more online who want to work with an OBM. So you're kind of like evaluating where they're at in their business. And that's going to give you the confidence to really get on a successful sales call with that potential client. So that first step is that preparation, doing your due diligence, getting all the information that you need. That's the first piece. That's like the information step. And you definitely don't want to skip that step. I think it's very easy to be like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'll just send them the link to my Calendly calendar invite thing, and they'll book a call and we'll get on and we'll have a great conversation. And then it goes on and on. It really ultimately gives the client the impression that you don't perhaps value your time. And that's the furthest thing from the truth, but that's the impression that you're giving that potential client. You want to save all of that stuff for the paid conversations that you have for when they sign on for your services. The discovery call, the sales conversation, this initial conversation is really in place for you and the client to have that first conversation about potentially working together and what that would look like. You're not getting into the dirtiness of their business and helping them already as an online business manager if you are an OBM. My next few tips are gonna help you to kind of keep that in check, because I'll be honest with you, I can relate. I am by nature very much a people pleaser. I know that's very common for us service-based folks around here to have this heart of service, to be giving to our clients, almost over-delivering in that sense. And one of the things we can over-deliver with all the love in our heart is this time thing and sharing information. And while that's all lovely and fine and dandy, it's just not the right place. The sales conversation is not the right place. You want to leave a little bit to the client's imagination so that they are excited to work with you. You don't want to leave them in a situation where they feel overwhelmed by all the suggestions that you gave them, because they may be nodding their head and smiling on their call, but inside they're like sinking down thinking, oh my God, I've got so many things to do. Oh my God, this is so overwhelming. Oh my God, do I really want to be making this commitment and bringing on this team member? So it could be very counterintuitive to be over giving. So often, with myself included and with many of the OBMs I train, they're just like, well, I had this hour and a half long conversation. I felt like we were jiving. Everything felt like it was moving in the right direction. And then it's like crickets because the client's overwhelmed or they've got whatever they needed and they've, gone on to do it themselves. So I don't want you to be in that situation. When it comes to the sales conversation, tip number 3 is limit the time on the sales conversation. Your sales conversations should not be more than 30 minutes long. Just gonna let that sink in for a second. If you've done sales conversations with clients, because I know a lot of you might be watching this for the first time, you might be just thinking about the OBM role and if it's a good fit for you. 30 minutes is the max amount of time it should take. That is more than enough time to ask enough questions to vet out if that client is a good fit. That's also more than enough time for the client to ask you any questions that they might have about working with you and what it's like. So it's like a get to know you. It's like throw me a bone. You might give them a few pieces here and there, or a little bit of information around, strategy for hiring or strategy for their launch. Like, I'm not saying withhold information and don't, keep it all to yourself until they hire you and you get paid, but you don't want to give them too much because it's also overwhelming for them. You can imagine that a lot of our OBM clients, and if you didn't check out who are OBM clients, I've got a video, I'll leave that in the description below as well, of the types of clients that we work with. But to be honest, a lot of these clients are not of our same personality in the sense of, having to manage things or manage more team members or bring on a new technology or do something that is more systems-based or organizational-based. It's not always fun for them. And while they know that an online business manager can come on to help them scale their business and build a solid foundation, it's still really overwhelming for somebody that's not their skill set. And typically with our clients, although this is not 100%, typically clients do not have the same skill set as us. They're visionary, they're creative, they're impact driven, they're making waves in this world, And we are the behind the scenes people that are kind of turning the cranks and making sure the right people are in the right place. Also recognizing where the client is at and meeting them there is going to be really helpful in understanding sales call strategy on the whole. 30 minutes, and your due diligence and your intake questionnaire should also give you a number of questions that you should be asking in those 30 minutes. So I want you coming prepared for this call. Okay, there's nothing worse than showing up for a sales conversation and not knowing anything about the client. It doesn't have to be like 2 hours of due diligence so that you can create these questions, but you need to know roughly based on their intake questionnaire and what you've researched about them. You want to have 5 or 6 key questions to ask them in the sales conversation. So for example, if I see that the client is promoting an upcoming launch on their social media, that's going to be one of the questions. Hey, so tell me about this upcoming launch. What is the product? And what is your launch strategy? And then you let the client talk. And here's the thing, the sales conversation doesn't have to be so scary because you're just asking questions. You don't need to be talking that much. You're asking guiding questions and you're letting the client do the talking. And that is the right sort of dynamic in the sales conversation. You do not want to be in a situation where suddenly the client is the one asking the questions and they start to dominate the sales conversation, because the reality is whoever asks the questions on the sales call is the one who's in control of the sale. And you, as an online support professional selling your services, from the get-go need to be the one who is leading the client relationship, because you are the person that will be coming on. You are the expert that's providing this expert service. So this is this whole expectation piece. From the get-go, you want to give the client the impression that they can trust you, that you are confident, you've done your research. That's going to make you feel confident. Look, I don't ever go into a sales conversation being like, oh, I know exactly what this is going to look like, and I'm always surprised, but I'm always confident because I'm more or less prepared as much as I can be. I'm not always gonna be like, crazy prepared. I definitely can't read the client's mind, although sometimes I think I can. I'm gonna know more or less what I'm gonna be asking and how I'm gonna be guiding the client and what are the 5 or 6 questions that I'm gonna ask along the course of the call, so that for the last 10 minutes of the call, I can say to the client, it's been so great to learn about your business. You've taught me so many things. You've showed me so many things, and I thank you for being so open. Would you like to know how I can support you with my services? So you're asking for permission to make the sale, okay? And that's the other important tip, is asking for permission to make the sale. Ask for permission to make the sale, because that's going to make the client feel comfortable, and that's going to give you that sort of opportunity to now switch gears into your service offerings. And with the preparation and with that whole service offering comes the next tip, which is you should be going into the sales conversation more or less knowing what you're going to sell the client into. One of the things that I find, if I'm being really honest with online business managers, is sometimes it's really difficult for us after a 20 or 30 minute discovery call, give a client a quote or a proposal for a retainer package, meaning ongoing monthly services, because quite honestly, you're not really 100% clear about what the client does or what their team is all about. So I really encourage online business managers in our paid programs. We teach our breakthrough strategy blueprint, and the breakthrough strategy blueprint is our strategy session that is a paid strategy session that we treat as a dating project. So by being prepared at the end of your sales conversation with a dating project, it's really nice because it's not a full retainer. It's a micro commitment that the client can sign on for. And it might be like almost like an extension of the discovery call, where you are hammering out a 90-day plan for that client based on what they want to accomplish over the next 90 days. It's totally custom, and that paid breakthrough strategy call is an opportunity for you to really hash it out with the client in a way where you don't feel like you're being used, because it's a paid session. And when it comes to pricing those paid sessions, we dive into this in our paid programs and all of that good stuff. I'll leave some resources below this video so you can check out our programs as well. But I really encourage you guys to go into that sales conversation knowing what you want to sell the client into. You don't want to be in a situation where you're like, oh my God, I don't even know what I want to sell them. You have to have, a few sorts of things in your back pocket that you can pull out depending on how that sales conversation goes. And this is all about you as a service support professional, just having buttoned up systems and knowing, you got my intake, I got my discovery call script and my flow, and now I know what services I'm gonna sell into. Because here's my last tip after have that sales conversation, and this isn't the most important tip, but this is definitely one that ranks highly. You need to follow up in a very timely manner. I don't want you guys waiting 3 days or 4 days or 5 days to follow up with the client. Like, they will lose trust. It will be like all in vain. Make sure that just like you have that clear package that you're selling them into, that you have some emails set up so that you can quickly and swiftly send out your proposal. Maybe you're using a software like Dubsado. We share all of our softwares over at sarahnokedcom.com/tools that we recommend OBMs work with. So we've got some great tools over there to share with you. You wanna just really continue to instill trust in that client, continue to make that amazing first impression so that the client is gonna really feel excited about working with you. And part of that is just having it together, especially as an OBM. If we don't have our systems together, then what kind of impression is that putting on our clients? And then the truth of the matter is, I love setting up systems. I love the whole intake questionnaire process, being really clear on what I'm gonna say to the client in the discovery call, and then having a process for following up after, So this is definitely a system that you wanna put a standard operating procedure around. This is something that you're gonna be doing, I hope weekly, if not monthly, in your business, having sales conversations. So it's not something that you need to reinvent the wheel every time you do it. I hope these tips have been helpful. If you enjoyed this video, do hit subscribe, leave me a comment below, and let me know what your aha was today. And I will see you next week for another video. Take care, I'll see you soon.